Welcome to the NVO's podcast, where we share actionable insights on web design, SEO, paid advertising, and AI automation. Each episode is focused on practical strategies you can apply immediately to build smarter systems, attract better traffic, and scale your business with confidence. So that right there, that's the introduction. It was submitted by a listener for their new agency podcast, NVOs.
Mm-hmm.
And today, our job is to, tear it down to build it back up.
Right.
This listener is an agency owner, and they're trying to do something really difficult. They're straddling two worlds. On one side, you have this super technical, fast-moving world of AI and automation.
Yep.
And on the other, you have high-touch, high-value strategic consulting. So the question is, does this positioning work? Or is it just sending mixed signals?
It's a great question. And, you have to admire the ambition of putting all of this together.
For sure.
Bringing AI automation into the same breath as SEO and web design is smart. I mean, that's where the market is in 2026. If you're not talking about AI, you're not really in the conversation.
Right.
But there's a subtle danger in how it's phrased. When you promise practical strategies next to AI automation, you might be accidentally commoditizing your own value.
How so?
You risk sounding like you just sell the tool. Like you're selling a wrench instead of being the mechanic who knows how to build the entire engine.
Okay, I see.
That's the tension we need to unpack today. So let's just dive right in. The first major issue I see here
is that AI-mation and web design are the very first things mentioned, the leading value props. By leading with the tools, the listener is, I think, positioning NVOs as a provider of something fast and cheap, not strategic growth.
Exactly.
The weakness is assuming that just having access to AI is a differentiator anymore. It's not. I mean, maybe in 2023 it was, but now it just signals a lack of bespoke strategy.
It suggests you're just reselling something the client could, in theory, go sign up for themselves for $20 a month.
Right. The whole positioning needs a pivot. It needs to go from what the tools are to why human oversight is, completely non-negotiable.
So frame AI as the engine.
Yes, but the agency has to be the navigator. There's this one group, the Horton Group. They make a distinction that I think is perfect here.
Go on. They say AI website builders are great at generating layouts. They can suggest headlines, summarize data.
Sure, the basics.
But what can't they do? They can't interpret market dynamics. They can't define a sales funnel based on actual human psychology. They just can't make those trade-offs.
So the tool builds the shell, but the human has to provide the soul.
Precisely. And this isn't just, some agency's opinion. I was reading this academic paper recently about a concept called vibe coding.
Vibe coding? That sounds like something a developer does while listening to lo-fi beats?
It's not that far off. It's basically using generative AI to quickly build a website based on a loose intention, a vibe, instead of a strict technical spec.
Okay.
The paper says that while this makes it super easy to get started, it introduces this huge problem they call code unreliability.
So it looks okay on the surface, but it's brittle.
Exactly. They call it the review gap. The professional gets stuck debugging code they didn't write, fixing all these weird logical hallucinations. The paper is really explicit that you need a human in the loop just for the review and debugging.
So the big takeaway is that AI gives you speed, but it absolutely does not give you direction.
Right. And if NVOs is just selling AI automation in their intro, they're selling speed. That's a commodity. They need to be selling the direction. That's the premium part.
So how do we make this actionable for them?
Simple. Rewrite that part of the intro to emphasize human-led optimization.
Okay.
Don't just say, we use AI. Say something like, we use AI to accelerate execution, but human strategy to architect the ecosystems that actually convert. You have to position NVOs as the pilot, not just the company that rents out the plane.
That's a vital distinction. Okay. Let's move on to the second critique. The submission promises to help listeners attract better traffic.
A classic promise.
It's a classic, but it's also a default setting for agencies. And I think in 2026, focusing on traffic is, it's a dangerous metric to hang your hat on.
Very dangerous.
The weakness is what some people call the brochure trap. There's this idea that traffic is rising for a lot of businesses, but inquiries are actually falling.
I've seen that happen so many times.
Why? Because most sites are just online brochures. They list services, about us, services, contact. They're not systems built to prepare a decision.
If your podcast is all about getting traffic, you're ignoring the real problem, which is that the client's website model is probably broken.
That is such a critical point. Traffic is just a vanity metric if the bucket is full of holes.
Exactly.
The listener here should shift the promise, get away from attracting traffic, and move toward removing doubt or converting attention.
Moving from a brochure mindset to a system mindset.
Yes.
Can you give me a concrete example of what that shift actually looks like in practice? Because I think a lot of people just assume if you get the eyeballs, the money will follow.
Sure. There's an agency, The Web Guys. They have this traffic tip 1 that's just brutally honest.
Okay.
They say, stop thinking like a creative, start thinking like an investor. Their formula is simple. Traffic times conversion equals sales.
Simple math.
Right, and if your website is just a brochure, a vanity piece, the conversion variable is basically 0. So it doesn't matter how much traffic you get. 1,000,000 times 0 is still 0.
It's like pouring water into a sieve.
It is. A system website, on the other hand, it guides people forward. It answers questions they don't even know they have yet. A brochure says, here's what we do. A system says, here is how we solve your problem step by step. It's like a mini salesperson warming up the prospect before they even get on a call.
I really like that idea of the website doing the heavy lifting. So how does Envios actually apply this to their intro?
The actionable tip is for their content strategy. Replace traffic tips with conversion architecture.
I like that.
Instead of teaching people how to get clicks, teach them how to build a site that acts like that mini salesperson. Teach them that a website's real job is to remove doubt. If the intro promises to build smarter systems, you instantly elevate the whole conversation.
That's a really powerful pivot. Okay, let's zoom in on the specific deliverables they mentioned. Web design, SEO, paid advertising.
The laundry list.
The laundry list, yeah. By listing them out like that, they risk anchoring their value to labor, not to results. This is classic service-based selling. When you sell web comps or SEO services, clients immediately start comparing you to the market rate, right? They're comparing your $40,000 proposal to the freelancer who charges $1,200.
And they don't see the difference. They just see the price tag. Clients don't know the value of a website. They only know the price they have in their head.
Exactly. You're selling the inputs, not the outputs.
And that's the trap. The suggestion here is to fully adopt outcome-based selling. You have to stop selling the S word, services, and start serving the client's future state.
The S word, I like that. So how do you stop selling services? What does that look like?
You have to change the whole conversation from what we do to what you get.
Right.
There's this example of pitching an e-learning platform. The service-based pitch would be boring. It would be about usability features, login screens, custom-crafted strategies.
All the technical stuff.
Yeah, but an outcome-based pitch says, this platform will upskill your team and drive organic traffic that attracts high-quality leads. It's a subtle shift in language, but it's massive.
I remember seeing this role play once, where a designer was trying to justify a $30,000 quote by listing every single deliverable.
Oh yeah, the wireframes, the strategy decks, the coding hours.
And the client just stared blankly at him and said, I can get a website for $5,000.
Because the designer was selling labor, and the client knows you can always find cheaper labor.
Right.
But then the host completely flips the script. He stops talking about the website and asks, why are you calling me?
And the client says, sales are down.
He just keeps digging until the client admits that fixing this problem, increasing engagement, is worth about $40,000 a month in profit.
Wow.
That's nearly $500,000 a year. Once you have that number, a $40,000 website is a bargain. It's an investment. But if you just pitch web design services, it sounds insanely expensive.
So for Envios, just listing SEO and web design in their intro is anchoring them to the price of labor from the very first sentence.
100%. They are begging to be commoditized. The actionable tip is to change the intro. Instead of insights on web design, say insights on revenue growth and market dominance.
And when they're actually pitching?
Model that same diagnosis. Ask the client, if we solve this for you, what does that mean for your bottom line? Anchor the price to that, not your hours.
Which brings us to our final critique. The intro promises practical strategies you can apply immediately. And while that sounds helpful, it implies a DIY audience. but the goal of the podcast is to help them scale your business. There's a mismatch.
An expectation mismatch. Big time.
By teaching all these DIY tactics, Envios might just be attracting clients who think, oh, my cousin can do this, or I can just do this myself after watching a video. You're inviting price objections.
It's a really delicate balance. You want to be helpful, of course, but you don't want to become a free tutorial library for hobbyists. The content should demonstrate expertise to build trust, not just to provide a tutorial.
Right.
You have to prove that doing it yourself is actually way riskier without an expert partner.
This is the dreaded cousin objection, isn't it? My cousin knows computers. He can do this.
The dreaded nephew. We've all lost a contract to him at some point.
And then 6 months later, the client calls you back because everything is broken.
Of course. But here's the thing. You defeat the nephew by highlighting the risk, not just by showing the steps.
It's the difference between showing someone how to do surgery versus showing them why they need a surgeon.
Perfect analogy. I can watch a YouTube video on how to perform an appendectomy. That does not mean I should pick up a scalpel.
No.
A client says, my cousin can do this, because they don't trust that your process is any better. So the content needs to show the step A, step B, step C process, not so they can copy it.
But to prove you actually have a roadmap that their cousin lacks.
Exactly. You're showing the rigor. I saw some advice once that said, don't sell your expertise, sell your value. And I'd add to that, use your expertise to highlight the dangers of the amateur approach.
And this loops all the way back to the AI element we talked about at the beginning.
It does. It's that AI disclaimer idea. You say, look, AI gives you a dashboard and then hopes you figure it out. Humans provide support when it breaks.
I say, Envios should do that. When they talk about strategies to apply immediately, they should include the disclaimer. Here's how you use AI to draft a page, but here's why you need a human to make sure it doesn't absolutely tank your SEO. Position the agency as the insurance policy.
The agency as the safety net for the listener's ambition.
Precisely. You empower them, but you also remind them that it's a jungle out there and they probably need a guide. Okay, we have covered a lot of ground. Let's recap the main points for our listener at Envios. First, we talked about the trap of selling tools. Don't let AI automation overshadow human strategy. You have to sell the pilot, not the plane.
Second, move beyond traffic and brochures. Traffic without a conversion system is just burning cash. You need to build systems that prepare decisions, not just pretty digital pamphlets.
Third, stop selling the list of services. No more SEO, and web design is the lead. Start selling outcomes, profit, growth, market dominance. Remember to diagnose the financial pain and anchor your value to that, not your labor.
And finally, use your content to build authority and get ahead of that DIY or cousin objection. Show your roadmap to prove you have a process and position your agency as the expert partner who prevents the inevitable DIY failure.
Envios, you have a really strong foundation here. The mix of topics is spot on, but how you frame it will decide if you're seen as a high-value consultant or just another commodity service.
I would really encourage you to rewrite that intro. Make it sound less like a menu of services and more like a manifesto for business growth. Something that says, we use technology to architect the systems that scale your revenue.
I'd love to see where you take this. Refine the positioning, rewrite that script, and please submit it back to us for a follow-up. Let's see if we can turn that brochure into a system. Thanks for listening to The Critique.